Oh, hey, lovely artists. It's Roz here. Today, we are exploring a question that many creatives are asking right now. Will art survive AI? With technology evolving so quickly, it is completely natural to wonder what this means for visual artists, for creativity, and for the future of our industry. If you've been feeling unsure, curious, or even a little unsettled by everything that you're seeing online, this episode is here to gently unpack what's actually happening at the intersection of art and technology and how to navigate this changing landscape with confidence. This is episode 113 of the Paint, Rest, Repeat podcast, which means you can find all the relevant links and the show notes over at permissiontopaint.co stroke podcast 113. Welcome to Paint, Rest, Repeat, the podcast for artists who are ready to ditch the overwhelm, follow their passion, and build a thriving art life on their own terms. I'm Roz, an Aussie artist, mum of two, and creative business coach who knows exactly how wild, wonderful, and wobbly the artist journey can be, because I've lived it. I left behind a safe teaching career to follow my heart into art, and now my work hangs in galleries and major art fairs across Australia. After years of coaching, I'm passionate about helping you ditch the starving artist myth, stick it to the naysayers, and design a creative life that truly lights you up. So if you're ready for real talk, practical tips, and heartfelt encouragement, you found your podcast. Hit follow and let's dive in. Today, we're taking a look at the rise of AI and what it means for artists in 2026. There is a lot of conversation happening right now, some hopeful, some skeptical, and some fearful. And when something new enters a creative industry or our world in general, it often brings uncertainty. I know that's not going to come as a surprise. I'm sure you are listening and relating to this as well, because as humans, we naturally find change unsettling. Our nervous systems often prefer what feels familiar and predictable. So rapid change can sometimes feel uncomfortable at first. And then here we are, with the super speedy rollout of AI, and it might have you wondering things like whether original art in particular, will continue to be valued, if audiences still care about human made work, if it will become harder to stand out as an artist, and if artists will be replaced altogether. These questions are completely understandable. And with that speed of AI being rolled out, it feels a little bit like the rug is being jiggled underneath our feet. So it's okay. It's very understandable if you were sitting here wondering these sorts of things. But rather than reacting from fear, it can be helpful to pause and to look at the bigger picture. And that's what we're going to be doing today, because when we do that, we can see really clearly that the role of the artist has always evolved alongside technology, and art has always remained. All right. So I've got some really good tips for you today, some actionable steps that you can take, and some perspective shifts as well that will be helpful for you as an artist. Now, the episode today is for artists at any stage who want to continue selling their work, who want to understand whether AI changes the demand for art, and who want to know how to move forward in a way that keeps them relevant without losing their authenticity. So if that sounds like you, whether you are early on in your art journey or maybe you're already selling consistently, this conversation is here to offer you that perspective. But why am I actually talking about this one today? It is because AI is here to stay. Even for the most technologically enthusiastic people I know and I come across, it has been a whirlwind already. We can't put it back in the box. So it helps to understand what is happening and then to decide how we want to move forward. Now, throughout history, new tools have always influenced how art is created and shared. We could list these ideas for a long time, but I'll just point out a couple. So, photography once raised questions about the future of painting. Digital art changed how work could be produced. Social media changed how artists connect with audiences. And then print on demand even changed how art is sold and reproduced. Each of these shifts caused uncertainty at the time. There was that fear, right? And then there was integration, and then evolution. Artists continued to create their work, and collectors continued to seek art which held meaning, and art continued to expand. I'm going to unpack some of these throughout this episode, so keep on listening until the end. Now, AI is another shift to add to the list, but it is not the end of creativity, and it is not the end of your art sales either. Let's dive into that. So, look, there is no other way to put this. AI has dramatically increased the volume of imagery online. There are more visuals being produced more quickly than ever before. And when there is more volume of something, when the supply increases of a certain product, say, it's natural to wonder whether the value remains the same. If there's more of that thing, does the value drop? Fair enough, right? Completely valid question. But the bigger question here is actually, why do people really buy art? And will AI change that? That's really what we need to explore. Now, people often buy art because it reflects their personality. It creates a particular atmosphere that they want in their home. It holds emotional meaning. It reminds them of a place or a moment or a feeling. It feels thoughtful and considered. It connects them to the artist, or it represents care, time, and skill. That is definitely not an exhaustive list, but they are some ideas and some reasons why people buy art. So AI, yes, obviously can generate images these days. It's pretty amazing. But as artists, we are not competing with AI. I really want that to land for you. We're not competing with AI, and that is because we don't just make images. Our work and our art is much more meaningful than that. And I want you to see your self worth in that. The value of your art is more than just an image. And a little fun fact for you, the fast moving digital world that we live in with AI rolling on out is actually increasing the desire for something real, something created slowly, something that is shaped by human experience, something that is imperfect and genuine. And that's why we are seeing peaks in sales around ceramics and work that is tactile and, really, really real, essentially, tangible and earthy and handmade and organic and all of those beautiful things. We are seeing it in other areas. Look at slow fashion, handmade goods, artisan food, independent brands, indie bands, even. People are often seeking out things and items that feel thoughtful and crafted. And art obviously naturally sits in exactly that same space because art is not about filling a wall. Yes, it will do that, obviously, but our art is more meaningful than that. Art is about creating a feeling within a space. It's about identity, the identity of the buyer. It's about connection to society, to artists, to creativity. There is more to it than just an image. Now, you might actually also notice artists already responding to this shift. For example, I recently heard about a digital artist who now labels their work as human made when exhibiting. So even though their work is actually created digitally, they want collectors to know that the ideas, the decisions, and the creative construction come from a real person, not an algorithm. That small detail helps to communicate something important to this artist's admirers and collectors, that there is intention behind the work, that there is a real creative mind involved, and that the artwork requires care, time, and skill. And these are exactly the elements that people continue to value. Now, I did want to dive in today to some actionable steps for you and ways that you can strengthen the value of your work in this age of AI. So rather than competing with AI on speed or volume, it's best to focus on highlighting the aspects of your work that technology cannot replicate. I have 7 ideas for you today. First up, let your hand be visible in your work. It might be things like having visible brush strokes or textural surfaces, leaving a few pencil marks there or sketch lines or layered paint. It might be things like having organic edges on the edges of your canvas surface or subtle variation in color. These small details signal your care and time and love and attention that you put into your artwork. They signal your decision making, and they remind also the viewer that a real person made this. Number two is to share glimpses of your process. So people can connect with the journey as much as the finished piece. Simple ways to do this are sharing work in progress photos, some short process videos as reels are really great on Instagram, sketchbook book pages, color swatching, moments in your studio, little behind the scenes snapshots, before and after images as well. That process and sharing the process of making your art builds trust, and it also strengthens perceived value. Your work is obviously valuable, but it helps to really demonstrate that time, love, and care and skill that have gone into creating your pieces. Now, I am actually noticing this as well with artists when they share glimpses of their process over on social media or on their email list, they are seeing a lot stronger engagement. So when they're sharing those things, like I mentioned, sketches, layers, color swatching, studio snapshots, those sorts of insights are helping their viewers to feel connected to the work before it is even finished. You know, they fall in love with the process, with the craft essentially, and with the artist too. That's you. Now we have number three here, which is developing a recognizable visual language. You know, I've often talk about this idea of a style or a signature feeling in your work. If you can develop that in your work over a period of time, it can really help you to stand out. It's time for us to stand even more proudly than usual in our identities as artists and the art that we create. And just do remember, you can develop your style gradually over time. It doesn't have to be an instant thing. I personally don't believe we land at a final style. We are always evolving, but sharing those pieces of our style as we go is really, really helpful in building that connection with your art buyers and your audience. Now, number four is to share the meaning behind the work because story adds depth. So you could share things like what inspired your artwork? What were you exploring creatively through that particular artwork or that collection? What drew you to the particular subject matter? What do the colors represent for you? Why did you choose those colors? Do they hold a meaning or do they signify anything in particular? This helps the artwork to feel really thoughtful rather than generic. And again, that meaning really increases the emotional connection and therefore purchases too. But it just makes your work highlighted as human made. Number five is allowing your work to evolve over time. Look, AI will generate those images and it generates them quickly, but artists develop bodies of work gradually. We are human and we are evolving, and we have so many rich layers going on inside of our minds and our hearts when we are creating. And that evolution is part of what makes your work interesting. Buyers often enjoy seeing how an artist's work grows and deepens over time. So, not just within a single artwork's process, but your career, basically. So, there is no need to rush this process. You know, enjoy being an artist, enjoy that process of evolution, and share that as you're going as well. Number six is focusing on connection, not content volume. So you don't need to actually post on social media, for example, constantly in order to remain relevant. What often matters more than that is sharing work that feels considered, communicating with warmth with your art audience, building trust with them by honoring your word and speaking your truth and being who you are naturally as an artist, allowing people to feel familiar with both you and also your work. That vulnerability piece can be difficult, but it's going to serve you really well. Okay. Baby steps towards sharing more about you and the meaning behind your work. Now, many artists I speak to are noticing that collectors want to know things like what inspired the piece and what materials were used, what the artist was exploring, and how that work evolved as well. So that sense of connection again really helps the artwork to stand out, and that strengthens the perceived value of the work. Number seven is creating from lived experience. Your perspective as a human is something that no technology can replace. So, your personal influences on your life and on your art practice, your memories, your environment, the space where you create, your observations as well of the world around you, they are going to naturally shape your work and the things that you're creating in your studio or your home art space. Art that comes from lived experience carries a lot of authenticity, and that authenticity is completely impossible to imitate. Now, if there is one idea that I'd like you to take away from this conversation, it is this: you are not competing with AI, you are offering something entirely different. So, yes, AI can generate those images, but it cannot generate your experience, your perspective, your voice, your story. It cannot generate your interpretation of the world. And they are the things that give art meaning. They are the things that mean that your work still holds value. And in many ways, real work by real artists is actually becoming more distinctive. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode today and found it really helpful, because, we are all artists together. We're on this journey together and we need to navigate the real world, right? There's no other world to navigate. So let's navigate it together and let's, continue on in our beautiful passion. Did you know that I have a free Facebook community called Permission to Paint? It is a place where artists all over the world come together to share their work, to get encouragement, and to learn tips to grow their art and their art business and their confidence too. If you would like to join us, just search for Permission to Paint on Facebook or head to permissiontopaint.co/free community. I would love to welcome you on in. Now, that is it for this episode. I am so glad that we could share this time together. I am Rose Gervais, and I'll catch you in the next episode.